This is a tiny video presentation that will show how to add lines into a spreadsheet between rows that are separated into columns. What we're looking at here on the screen is a spreadsheet that has 8 columns, and there is information needed to go into those columns. But at the same time, between the columns, we wanted to put some notes, and you can see the first one or two entries. Brian Hudson, you can see his columns with all his individual information under the headings, and then the notes. But adding a blank notes section beneath columns into a spreadsheet with columns isn't easy, and you've got to do a sort of fudge to actually be able to do it. And on the right hand side you can see those vertical lines, several vertical lines, and they are there in the notes row, taking up some space on the right hand side, but very little space. They're there because I have moved the vertical column dividers for that particular row over. But you can only do that in a certain way. You can't just take any old row in a column-based spreadsheet and just move the verticals. It won't let you do that. What you have to do, as you will see, is insert a new row, and before you reach a certain stage with that row, you must then move the bars across. If you try doing it as you've just seen me try there, in an existing row, all that happens is it tries to make the columns wider or less wide. So here I go now. I'm going to insert a new row above, and there it is, with that blue bar. Now, for as long as that blue bar is there, we can move those columns. So just watch me do that and see how that column vertical, I've been able to move it. Shove it over to the right, and there I go again and again. And I've got to keep doing this until all of the bars are over to the right. So there's the fourth one, and it's like watching paint dry, but I'm just trying to straighten out the very right hand border. And here's the fifth one, and there are of course 7 in all. It's a bit fiddly, a bit tricky. It takes a few moments, but what you get at the end is very useful. So there we are. Once I've managed to get that last little fellow who seems to want to not be moved, there you are now, and you've got a row inside a column-based spreadsheet, but that row can be used to hold notes. So I now cut and paste the notes that I want to go in there, and I reduce the size and tidy them up. And so that's how it's done. Adjusting the typing inside these entries, just to make them look a bit better, spacing it out a little bit, and in a moment we'll delete that row that has become surplus. It's an empty row with a whole load of vertical bars in it, and it's become surplus to requirements. But just for the moment, I'm adding a little bit of information into the rows just to show how those work, just like ordinary areas of text in a word processor or within a box in a column. What I'm doing now is just opening the vertical space up so that the next entry for Paul Bailey starts at the top of the page and isn't divided into 2 parts. And that's what's happened. You can see the documents developing in that way, where we hopefully can organize the new areas in such a fashion that the individual entries aren't split. I'm not making a particularly good job of this, I'm sure. With a bit of practice, anyone else would be making a better job. And so I think eventually we may get there. There we are again, and now we move on to the next one. And exactly the same process. Put it. So there is the new blank, and here we are pushing the vertical bars across. This is for the Paul Bailey entry. Paul Bailey hasn't actually got very many notes, but even so, they might develop in time. In fact, they will develop in time, I expect. And over they go, for as long as it's in this blue condition. If you click inside the row at this stage and lose the blue, then you've lost the whole thing. So we just cut out that small note that exists for him, paste it into there, and then that's that pretty much done. And now I click into that row that's full of vertical bars, hit the delete button, select delete this row, and there it is gone. And so we're ready now to do the next one. Right, so there is that little tutorial which I hope enables us to create spreadsheets for use internally, where there is a number of columns and then every now and again a horizontal bar with sufficient space in it to be able to build as many notes as we want.